there, my subscribers and time traveler enthusiasts. It's Jason Moss. Continuing my video collection on time travel. As you may or may not know, I'm an experiencer of rather paranormal events that have taken place in my life that seem to defy explanation conventionally. Of course, there's always that skeptics out there that would argue whatever they want to say about it. You got it all wrong, or you don't remember it right. Whatever the case may be for them. I'm going to bring you a story that will enlighten you, shock you, and you can take this one to bed at night and think, wow, one that can be proved. Time travel with solid proof. Because I care about all of you, and I think about what I'm putting out there, and I don't want to say something which leaves my subscribers feeling a little cheated, I guess. I think a lot of people are putting stuff online and saying a lot of things. I've been reading a lot of articles, and been a lot of stuff being put out there. People are saying the government's got technology for time travel. Genius kid builds time machine, goes back and changes his term paper. Art Bell's radio show interviewing Professor Ronald Mallet, a guy called in saying they built a time machine. And it's those sudden, quick moments that kind of jerk you a bit and grab you. And there's almost a sense of discouragement that hits about a second later. And you think, why am I being kept out of the loop on that? I want to know about that. Is that real? Is that real? Then there's these purported pictures on the internet. Both skeptics and believers alike have argued about. We've seen the man who claimed it's a 1940s picture of a man with an M on his shirt, and then there's this picture of someone supposed to be talking on a mobile phone in a Charlie Chaplin 1920s silent picture. Later people said, well, that's an earpiece to hear things better. But again, if you look at it carefully, the skeptics often leave out so much information. That's why they don't really make the best scientists are the ones that just keep an open mind and really put all the data out there. If the data says it, then there it is. Don't try to just put a square peg into a round hole and say, now look, that's going to fit because I think that's what I think. You don't have an opinion in science. It's just that simple. You don't have a belief system or an opinion. Don't bring that to science because you're not going to get anywhere. Science is about development and getting further, not, and growth, not adding your, you walked into this with an idea and opinion about it. Well, I'm going to do this. I've heard people who spent a lot of time in college do that one. And I think, man, you just wasted your time in college, didn't you? Because that's not what science is about. Well, it was 1981. I was 9 years old, living in Hurst, Texas, with a lady, my mother, okay, and my sister. We lived in an apartment complex, just the three of us. And I was on a big wheel, riding around. Hardships were hitting the family pretty hard in those days. And I guess my mother was involved in, I don't know what she was getting involved with. There were hardships that were coming down on us. And there was a man one day that approached me on a sunny day in Texas. I remember in 1981. I'm a man who doesn't drink. I don't believe in smoking pot. I don't drink alcohol. People argue, how can you remember so much? Well, if you people would stop drinking and smoking pot, you can access those memories too. You're trying to put me into a paradigm of people that can't remember anything because they've spent a lifetime drinking and smoking pot. I'm 42. For all you youngsters listening out there, you hear it all the time. Don't do drugs. Don't do drugs. Stay in school. Okay, that's right. That's my message. Don't do drugs. Stay in school. I'm not going to say hemp is good for killing cancer. I'm waiting for something else to cure cancer besides marijuana, or another excuse to be doing drugs. That's my anti-drug statement. I don't judge people who do it, but I tell them get off it. But I like the fact that I can remember cool things that did happen and the way they happened. Because I can then research it and find out later that's exactly what happened. Listen to this. Man comes out. I was riding a big wheel with some friends, and he was an old man in his 60s, bald on top, stumpy build, with an English accent, British accent. And he had tears in his eyes. And he says, "Hello there." And I said, "Hello. Who are you?" "Oh, I'm the maintenance fellow." He says, "I'm maintenance around here." He says, "I'm not supposed to be talking to you." I says, "So because you're a stranger, I don't know you." And he says, "Nope, it's not the reason." He says, "It's hard to see you this way." He says, "But I've done what I've come here to do. I have finished, and I'm leaving. But I just wanted you to know that I saved you. I saved you from what was to come next." I said, "What are you talking about?" And I was a curious kid. And he says, "I am the youngest of 4 brothers from England." He says, "I am your son." And his tears welling up in his eyes, and he's gazing at this childlike version of me, and he says, "I'm your son." And I just, 9-year-old, just, okay. And I went right into this with him. "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, I had a wife. I got married." He says, "What? She left you in the marriage?" And we talked for a bit. This kind, white-haired old man spoke for a bit. And he's looking at me and he's gazing at me. And he says, "I want you to know that we got all your journals and your diaries." And he says, "We did do as you wanted." There were some things he spoke to me about privately. And I don't, this is all, I'm like this, and he says, "This won't mean anything to you now. You'll remember this." He says, "You will remember it. But I'm here." He says, I prevented her from doing something that would have ended up putting you in an orphanage. And you would have ended up turning out to be a rather negative person. You met our mom anyways. Our mum, he called her. And he goes on to say that I was abusive in another timeline because I'd been in an orphan's home. And he said he was saving me from that disaster. So in another timeline, I met his mother anyways. And he goes on to say that I was prevented from going down that timeline. And then he says, "You saved us. Now we're saving you." And I said, "Well, what became of me?" And he says, "You become an author, a children's author, fairy tale author. You get involved in many things." Then he said something that was really, his stuff was getting stranger as it went. He says, "You're an activist for a different kind of people in the future. They're not quite like ordinary human beings." He says, "You're an activist for them." Then he said, "You're also an activist for android rights, that they're being used as slaves, but artificial intelligence is commonplace where I come from. And they have feelings, but many don't see those feelings." And he looked at me and he says, "But you are a very powerful activist fighting for their rights as equals." But then he said to me, he says, you went away with the fairies. In the end, you went away with the fairies. You'll never see them again. I said, the fairies? He says, yes. Because he said I was writing fairy stories. And he was a timid man, very timid. And he says, I was told not to tell you this, not to speak to you, but I know that I am speaking to you. He says, I know that you will remember this. You will remember it. And you will tell others. Then he says to me, your theories about time travel are all true. They're all true. And he was very sad. What I learned, I then told, a year later, I told I was in a special needs class due to absences in school, things like that. And I was speaking to the school psychologist. He's still practicing today, by the way. And I told him the story. I told the school psychologist the story I've just given you about the time-traveling son. And he was busy writing all that down. That's state law, Texas state law. They have to write everything a child says down, everything. And I says, what are you going to do with that? I was 10, about 11. And the doctor says, he was a doctor of psychology and very kind man. He says, all of this goes to state record. It goes to red tape. After a while, red tape. It stays on record. Everything he wrote down, every note, every detail of this. Fourth son, England, all of it. Well, that's on record, and I have that record, and you're going to like this. Now, I said that I'd give you something, a real treat. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I am living in England. I am the father of 4 sons. 4 boys. If I can get a picture here. This is not the best. This is them as babies. If you want, I'll get that record for you from the state of Texas. And you will see where in 1982, 1983, I gave that testimony to this doctor, indicating that this time-traveling son was English. And you will see that I'm saying that to that doctor. Those notes are there. They've been copied. They're now on the red tape, like microfiche. They're all there. And here I am today, living in England with 4 boys. Now, what are the odds? Even the hardest skeptic would have to look at that one and go, my God. Something to think about. And you go to bed tonight. And your happy marriages. That this is all very real. And he somehow prevented the woman who raised me, my mother, from getting involved in probably something very serious like drugs or God knows what. I did not end up in an orphanage. I ended up with a stepdad and her. He gave me a lot of other information about things that I have remembered. I've imparted to my sons about the future and things like this. But hybrids, alien hybrids, are going to be more active on the planet. And as I understand it, I'm an activist for their rights because they're very passive. And in the 21st century, we have artificial intelligent machines, beings, androids, which are going to be everywhere. And they have feelings and emotions, and they're going to be arguing that they have souls too. many are going to be saying, no they don't, no they don't. There's so much stuff around me, people are thinking this is too much. But my life became a bit of a pivotal point for many that would follow after. And this is a family of generations of time travelers that come out of this. The CIA have time travel, they're time traveling, they're using it as a weapon. I know about merging timelines, parallel realities, and all like that. But that's their business, how that plays out, I don't know. I don't believe my sons are involved in any of that kind of aspect of it. There are many ways to do something, and I don't know how they're doing it. But I can tell you how. I can tell you how it can be done. In my previous video, it was a little dark. Sorry about that. But I don't know if he meant that literally. I go away with fairies, but that would be interesting. That would be interesting. Yeah, that'd be interesting. So that's my video. Hope you've enjoyed it. That was my treat for all of you. You want proof? There it is, sitting in state records. And you say, what's so important about a 30-year-old record of a boy claiming to have future English kids, 4 English boy sons, some kid from Texas? Well, I'm living in England now with 4 English sons. So, I love all of you. I'm not keeping secrets from you. I think this is really cool. So just smile and understand that really, truly, it's all at your fingertips. Not just the internet, but when you realize time travel is a reality, it's really, your whole outlook on life changes dramatically. It's really neat. It's a neat feeling. It's like Christmas morning every day you wake up. Because then you realize that there isn't anything, nothing's lost to you. But like Professor Malik points out, there's a responsibility to this. Nothing's lost to you. Your whole life, your whole history is right there. And you can have it, keep it. I don't know, there may be some fanatical bunch that go out there and try to change history for themselves. He lost his wife. Okay, that's not nice to call someone fanatical. And God help them, God bless them. If they want to change history and save her life, hopefully you've made a better life for your other self. But sadly, you may not have made anything for you. If you haven't changed too much, and you can go up and see her, maybe that'll help you bring some closure to that death. I don't know. It's like hugging a photo one last time. But I don't know. I guess with the wild, rampant gossip running around the internet, especially Facebook, there's a lot of people that were very extremely defensive and guarded and jealous of my other experiences with regards to extraterrestrial contact, alien abduction phenomena, and all like that. And they didn't like it, or they were, I don't know, I got accused of being unbalanced, untrusting, lying, gossip. It was a constant rhetoric. But again, I'm only bringing what I can and saying this to everybody. Keep it or throw it away. But if you're discarding something on the basis of gossip, well then I'm feeling very sorry for you. You're missing out on something quite significant. And that's your loss, not mine. There you go. Alright, the time-traveling sun.